YouTube right now.
We're good.
It's just doing its loading screen, but almost there.
Is Gil joining us tonight?
He will be late, pretty late. He said about 7:30, but his items that we really need him for when I'm recused are the last two, I believe.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, we are live on YouTube now.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the February 11th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. We'll get started with the agenda for tonight. First two items are to approve the December 3rd and January 7th draft minutes, which Cindy has circulated. Anybody have any additional comments on those? Either one? Questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the December 3rd minutes?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that one's approved. And then January 7th. Motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Oh, it's consistent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those are approved. Next up is Rebecca's trustee report. Rebecca?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. My report, as usual, is not so long. The parking committee, I know I've been keeping an eye on, and they are working on looking at and interested in discussing these parking modules that that this board is looking at. So they're looking to sort of be a part of that discussion as far as helping to determine these new guidelines as far as the regulations and possible amendments to the code vis-a-vis parking. So I know that that's going on. And then I know the Conservation Advisory Committee is also examining the tree code and looking at why there are, what holes there are in the tree code and how we might be able to close them up so that there is more justice for the trees in the village, because as Lorax as that sounds, it is very important. And so, because we do have a lot of residents who are very upset when neighbors take down trees or contractors or whoever takes down large amounts of trees or important trees. So I imagine the CAC might be putting in a request sooner than later for someone to come in and help them, look at their concepts there. Otherwise, I don't have anything directly to report. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, I'm looking forward to hearing discussion this evening.
Okay, that was very brief, and we're moving along. We got 3 items done already.
Great.
It's almost time for a break. The next planning board hearing is scheduled planning board meeting, and there I see it indicated as public hearing on the agenda as well. Is that we have a hearing identified for that meeting as well on March 11th? Is that, or is that just a standard placeholder for now in case we do have a public hearing?
That is the standard placeholder. I don't believe there's any public hearings scheduled at this time.
Okay, so we had talked briefly before we came on the air about potentially starting all of the planning board meetings at 6 p.m. for consistency, so that we're not bouncing back and forth with times from month to month. Typically, when we do that at 6, we have the public hearing, if we have one that night, at 6:30. So I assume we can keep that schedule for now, unless something changes, but that's what we'll try to do going forward. I guess the zoning board is also on the same schedule?
Yeah, they just moved their meetings from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
All right, so
Well, we're
someone-
virtual.
if someone wants to tune in on either boards, they know they can tune in on the right date at 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
Okay, first item is site plan and development for the site at 34 Jamaica Avenue. This involves a proposed installation of a containerized battery energy storage system on a leased portion of the existing lot. This was referred to us by the town of Brookhaven. I guess it's immediately adjacent to the town, to the village and town line on the east side of the village. And it's, if I recall, it's north of the MTA property and east of Columbia. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I've brought up the tax map so you can see the location. This is North Columbia. Everything on this side is the village of Port Jeff, and actually all of these properties are in the village of Port Jeff, but this line then becomes Brookhaven. And
Okay.
this area of the town of Brookhaven is L1 Industrial,
Mhm.
and the site that has this proposal is this property right here.
Okay. So it's within distance for us to comment, although not within the village.
Exactly.
I know from just looking at the type of site that's here, battery energy storage system, it's not a big traffic generator, so there's no concern about a significant amount of additional traffic on Columbia from this facility. The only other thought I had, and I'll ask for other comments, is that battery storage is their protection for potential leakage of battery items or corrosion from the battery into the groundwater. That was my only thought on this one.
And
Any-
I actually had a question, if there was ever a fire or battery fire, how do the who responds to that and how do they get there? And will they need special training in order to put out a battery fire or
That's a good question.
something like that? Because I can imagine it would be Mount Sinai and Port Jeff, and we have to make sure that they could get around that. Well, I'm pointing on the screen, which you can't see, but actually on this screen, like there's a tight turn.
Mhm.
Just wondering if they can.
So the lot is in the Mount Sinai district, I believe. It's not in the Port Jeff district, but of course, response often is whoever can get there first. But that might be a question that we ask the Brookhaven Town Planning Board to consider asking.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment.
Allison, isn't that the Port Jeff Station Fire Department?
I don't know if their fire department line starts on the other side of the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
This is still north of the Long Island Railroad tracks.
Okay.
So I know our line does end right on our, the fire district line doesn't always run exactly on municipal lines. In that area it does. I checked the map earlier today. But it doesn't identify who's on the other side. It is my understanding that on the north side of the tracks, it's Mount Sinai. But again, that would be a great question for the Brookhaven Town Planning Board, if they have any concerns about that, for them to ask the applicant to reach out.
And these batteries are for the purpose of PSE&G. That somewhere in the literature I read that it's for PSE&G.
Yeah, so they're meant to be a supplemental battery backup for the system. They're not owned or operated by PSEG, but they will be, my understanding is that they will be connected to the system to supply energy as required.
How do they get their energy? Where does the energy come from that's put into the battery? Is there a
It looks like there's electric service feeders proposed on there.
Yeah, I know I've spoken to other, not this applicant in particular, but other people inquiring about this use in the village of Port Jefferson itself. And this is a rising issue of and possible mode of supplying supplemental power to the grids using these battery backups, whether it's from solar arrays and that type of energy, or literally just fed in energy that's stored for later use at times when there's a crunch on the system.
And these are solar fed, right? That's how the batteries get their energy.
That I don't know.
And I just see the Sunkeeper Solar logo.
Yeah.
On it. And yeah, I don't know either.
I would think, yeah, it is from the solar company, but it does not show solar panels as far as I can see on site. So
Is there a cross section on one of those drawings? Maybe is it the last drawing possibly? No,
no.
that's not helpful.
Um,
Do we have any manufacturer's information on those batteries or any kind of specifications?
so they're Teslas, and I have actually looked. Let me see if I can pull up the Tesla. It's not the most information, but let me see if I can share this screen. That shows what it's their promotional material, but shows what they're apparently very scalable. So I think they come in different size and groupings, depending on how much power one requires to store.
Okay.
So I have the notes that just to, potential concerns regarding, environmental issues related to potential leakage of battery fluids,
Mhm.
and then a fire access and whether any special training is needed for it for this use.
Yeah, and then the only other thing after looking at this is that's a very impermeable slab. I'm just curious about the drainage, where it would end up.
Yeah.
And is the area fenced in?
Yes, they are going to fence it.
Chain link fence see-through, or is it going to be?
I
So you
think it
can't
was
see it.
chain link. I saw on that last sheet.
All
Yeah,
right.
they had, let me just pull that one up again. Switch screens here. So yeah, chain link with privacy slats. It does seem to be a very low traffic use. They only provide one parking spot. I presume that they only need it for occasional maintenance and observation to make sure and checking in on the backs. There's not anyone that, would regularly be working there or operating them. It
Okay.
does seem like a fairly low intensity industrial use.
Anybody else have questions or comments?
No, to Laura's, Laura said, I don't see anything that's going to collect any spillage or accidents. They don't have any trenches or something to collect the battery acid if one goes.
Yeah, what's that trench detail on that last sheet?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
looking at.
no, that's got electrical conduit in it. That's for
That's
the electrical line.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
goes under the road and out someplace. They don't show where it goes to.
Is there a concrete cross section or section or so we can see how that
The slab itself, you mean?
This-
slab? Yeah, to see if there's anything in there like.
This is really what we have. We have the gravel surface detail.
Yeah.
And just to flip through these pages again to see if there's anything else worth mentioning.
Yeah, it's odd. You think they'd have a detail of the slab and the thickness of the concrete and the whole thing.
It does note firefighter access all around.
Man. Yeah,
Uh.
that's to be reviewed, I think, by the fire department, fire marshal too.
You don't mention anything about slabs.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It seems to be suggesting that it's going to be put on a gravel
Gravel.
surface.
Oh,
And
then.
it notes
Okay.
that these are ground mounted battery systems. So potentially a different type than what the website was showing.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So,
Gravel surface.
then
They
I
may
guess,
have a built-in tray or something to catch leaks.
I think that's a very good point though too.
Yeah.
Because that certainly is would be, as we know, with plumes.
Yeah.
We don't want them.
Right. Yeah, that's odd that it would be a gravel surface where, well, I don't know. I don't know enough about those types of batteries to.
Yeah, this is a fairly new use. That's but it's interesting that we had this this referral, because I have actually gotten maybe 2 calls here inquiring about this type of use in the village.
Mhm.
And to date, I don't think we have any code really addressing it specifically because it is so new.
Right.
All right. I have those notes. Anything else to add to the referral letter? Okay.
Okay, good. Next item is the Ransom Inn Bed and Breakfast on East Broadway, 409 East Broadway.
Okay. Well, that is a renewal of an existing bed and breakfast. Every 3 years, they're required to renew their special use permit at the Board of Trustees and go for have a public hearing. This particular use has been in place since, I believe, 1997. And after reviewing the file, we have there are no violations on the property, there's no open building permits, and there's no complaints that have been registered. So I don't it's required that the Board of Trustees request any planning board feedback, and I would it's up to you if there's anything else you'd like to say, but I would think that this would be that we would recommend the renewal of the use, as there is no violations or complaints noted.
Yeah, I mean, I drive by it all the time, and I don't hardly ever see a car parked on the outside along the street. Mostly their parking for their tenants is inside the fence, the rolling gate they have there, I think. So I haven't seen any problems there. I don't know if anybody else has observed anything or has any other comments on it.
No,
No, I have
I've
no
never
problem
seen
with it.
any problems, no.
Yeah.
No issues.
Okay,
right.
so with that, I'll just put a letter from the maybe send it to Ray to sign, to send to the Board of Trustees recommending a renewal of and noting that the planning board's noted no issues with the applicant's property.
Okay, good. Next item is 170 North Country Road, and that's at the corner of North Country Road and Columbia Avenue, with a proposed addition of 26 parking spaces. And it says return of original proposal with new zoning. So I guess Lisa's going to give us an update on that one.
Yeah, I think that description might be slightly off. So I'm going to bring in Eric Russo, who is helping Sal Capitano. He is waiting in the waiting room. So if that's okay, I'll bring him in so he can, or do you want to wait until I do a quick review of the project first?
No, you can bring him in, I think, while you do that.
All right,
While you do and have him there while you do the review.
great. I'll promote Eric Russo to panelist. Hi, Eric. We've promoted
Good
you.
evening.
How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. It's nice to see all of you again.
It's nice to
Same
see
here.
you.
Not as nice as it in person, but it'll have to.
No. My tailor and my dry cleaner are very upset. I haven't been wearing suits in over a year. However, my makeup artist is having a wonderful time.
So I'm going to pull up the most recent site plan. The scan is not great. It's clearer in person, but that's not an option right now. So if you recall, this application has been around for a while, and there were a number of issues. The first and foremost was that, unfortunately, it was originally zoned RO, resident office, and had come to have had space that was leased to Mather Hospital and was being used as commercial as medical office space, which was not something that was permitted in the RO district. So Sal Capitano, the property owner, came to us requesting to expand the parking lot, and the planning board denied the application because there was an illegal use in the building. In the time since that, the Board of Trustees actually enacted a zone change for the whole stretch of RO along North Country Road, and this property is now zoned PO. And the medical use in the PO district is a conditional use that he already has conditional use approval for based on his original site plan. The addition of the medical use adds 3,800 square feet of space that is now calculated at a 1 per 100 parking calculation, as opposed to a 1 per 300. So these are slightly adjusted numbers from the earlier plans, which is why I said the agenda might actually inaccurately reflect them. The total required parking spaces is 66. This plan now proposes 66 spaces. However, the applicant has requested to land bank 8 of those spaces, which will allow the preservation of some landscaping areas that are, quite nicely developed. And he feels that the addition of the additional spaces will be sufficient for the use. That said, if it's ever observed that that's not, the site's not functional, there's not enough parking there, the village can require that those land bank spaces be developed because they are on the plan. So just to try to give you a quick summary, these spaces are all proposed new spaces that don't currently exist, and the applicant intends to develop them. One of the other pieces that was holding us up was there was no screening provided here, but he's now added in 6.5 foot fence with slats to provide screening from the neighboring residential area, along with some additional plantings of rhododendron and such that are proposed here. He has also expanded the parking lot up here to get a few extra spaces, and then over here to get a few extra spaces. These spaces, these 3 next to the building, this one right at the entrance, and this potential space where there is currently a planting area are the 8 spaces that the property owner is hoping to land bank so that he doesn't have to tear out all of the plantings and natural vegetation over here at this time. So I don't know if you would like to see, I have photos from the property owner of the property. Is there any documents that would be helpful to look at this time?
Lisa, could you just, excuse me, go over those numbers again about how many spaces are required and how many wants to land bank?
Lisa, is it possible that I could just walk them through this?
Yes, please go ahead, Eric.
Okay, so first question, does everybody have the site plan in front of them? Or is it just what's shown on the screen here?
Just what's on the screen.
Yeah.
All right, then let me take you through the parking summary, because there are a total of 4 suites in the building. The building is, suite number 1 is 6,600 square feet of office, which is being calculated 1 per 300, where Lisa has reviewed it and agrees 22 spaces based on the 1 per 300. Suite number 2 is 1,800 square feet, 1 per 300, or 6 spaces. And then suite 3 and 4 is 3,800 square feet, which is the medical office at 1 per 100 of 38 spaces for a total of 66. The dilemma here has been, as was pointed out, that the fact that the zoning didn't match what the use was. Mr. Capitano had entered into a lease after discussions with your building inspector and your village engineer at the time. And the discussion was that Mather, which is now Northwell, was going to have just office use. After Mather got in, and that's what their lease that he provided them stated, they converted it to psychiatric consulting and counseling. So it was now deemed to be the medical use, which is why there was a problem given the zoning being RO and you as a village not needing it as PO. And it took a period of time for the village board to come along and change the zoning all along that area. So this has been bouncing around since about 2017. As a result of agreeing on the parking spaces for 66 paces, because Mather is in the 3,800 square foot space, the parking on the site and the landscaping was existing and very mature. So in order to proceed, what he did is he had various iterations of plans that he submitted. I think this is the 7th plan that Lisa's had the opportunity to review, where she came back in comments in November. And that's when he called me asking me to try and walk him through and help him get through the last of the process. And she needed a short EAF, which he provided. He needed to show the screening, which was added, as Lisa's pointing out to you, on the various sections of the site plan. He needed to have ADA compliance, which he added as well. And as far as the screening was concerned, there was a request for a 6.5-foot fence and shrubs by the residences and also by the street to block the residences across the street, all of which was added. The parking calculations were revised, but based on the use of the building, because there's still some vacant tenancies, it was felt that without having to destroy existing vegetation, putting in 3 spaces on what would be the south side for land banking, putting 3 spaces right in front of the building. And there was a request, there were originally shown 4, and planning comments were eliminate 1 too close to the building, and that was done. So there's 3 there. The existing flagpole and shrubbery, as Lisa pointed out, which is in the middle right in front of the building, flagpole is going to be relocated if has to be. And that is one of the parking spaces. And the other one is right by the entrance, but it has a tree there, and we're proposing to keep that tree, but if we need it as a space, we'll have it in the future. So the parking is now compliant. And then there was a question about the dumpster, and he has provided photos, and there will be screening around the dumpster as well. So all of that is shown on the site plan that's up in front of you. And in addition, 9 photographs were taken, and we gave a photo plan that shows all around the site. And these photos were taken in November. So you get a sense of, when you look at the photos, what shrubbery, what trees, what plantings are there. And it's still, and I went up there to drive around and look at the site. And I think the site, given its age, because it has a CO that goes back to 1993, and given the plantings and the way it's situated, what Sal has proposed here, Mr. Capitano has done a very good job of trying to address the comments that came from the planning staff, as well as the concerns that were raised by board members as it went through the process to this 7th site plan. So we're hopeful that tonight you will find it acceptable and you will approve it so that he can move on to get a highway permit and do the site work in the spring. And the photos are there. If you look at those photos, there was a plan that we provided Lisa with that showed where the 9 photos are is located on the property and gave you a sense of what exists.
Oh, can I ask a few questions?
I'll let you have 2.
So the dumpster enclosure is moving
The
west.
dumpster, no, the dumpster enclosure remains where it is.
Oh, I thought it was moving for some reason. It looked like on the site plan it was moving closer to the.
Does have to move because they're
Sorry, I take it back.
Okay. So there's no rule about how far away from the property line a dumpster enclosure has to be. And it doesn't look like on the satellite that there's anyone, that there's any real use, residential or otherwise, behind it. So as long as there's no setback.
Well, as they put on the site plan, the garbage pickup is once per week, and it's a straight in, straight out access. And you're correct. I apologize. When you said it wasn't moving, I meant it was staying in the same general location, but just being pushed back to accommodate the 3 land bank spaces that are over there in that general area as well as the other.
Right, and
That
there's
was a
no,
request from the board.
and there's no setback rule?
To my knowledge,
No.
Lisa did not bring one up, and I'm not.
No,
aware
so
of
this
one.
is, this property next door is zone PO, although it is a residence there. But as you can see from, can you see the
Yeah,
property map right now, the tax map? The house itself is situated all the way up here, and this is all woods in the back. So the impact on the neighbor is not,
De minimis.
yeah, it's not significant.
just trying to make sure we cover all bases. And
Very smart.
the
But he
second,
also proposes that it's going to be a new enclosure, as he's showing on the plan.
okay. And then the other question I had was, he wants to land bank 8 spaces. That's 12% of 66 total spaces. So that's land banking 12% of his requirement. But how many is he adding?
He's going to 66.
Well,
But he had, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to figure out the differential. So what does he have now to what
I believe he's adding 16 new spaces that will be developed and proposing 8 that will then be land banked and could be developed at a future time.
If you look at that aerial, if you could slide it to the west. Okay, so you see where the entrance is on the aerial? If you, right there, the
Yeah.
parking, the 16 new spaces will run south from there. It's shown on the site plan that 16 spaces will be there. So what will happen adjacent to the building, if you bring the arrow over to the building, the parking spaces that are aligned alongside the building there are a total of 16 spaces along the building side on the south. And then the further south part, there is another 16 spaces and 3 will be land banked closest to the dumpster. Then when you go up the line in front of the building that would be facing on the street, right in front in the triangular area in front of the building, if you bring the arrow down there are 3 land bank spaces provided there. There were originally 4, but one of the comments was one of them was too close to the building. So we made that 3. And then if you go in the far right across the parking lot there and start from that car, there's 1 land bank space that's being proposed there where the arrow is, but we're also putting a tree there for the moment. It's 1 new space, but there is a tree that is a pine oak that is going to be removed, and that will be there if the space comes out, but that's 1 land bank. And then it will run 18 spaces up, and the other land bank is there where there's a planting and a flagpole. And if the flagpole and the planting would be relocated and the planting would be removed if it was determined that we needed additional spaces. But based on the tenancy at the moment, the parking with the new additional 16 spaces should be more than adequate with the 8 land banked. And that's after discussion with the property owner, Mr. Capitano, and also with discussion with Lisa and reviewing the various plans and iterations that have gone forward. And I believe they were brought before you previously and your comments were taken to heart and things were modified.
okay, and then 2 handicap spaces is enough?
He has increased the number to 3 because 3 are required. So there's
Where's the
now
3?
1, 2, 3
Oh, okay.
handicap spaces.
I didn't see it because of the dark.
Yeah, but you're correct that the increase in number of spaces requires an additional handicap spot.
Okay.
And all the entrances are on this side of the building. So
Mhm.
this is the most logical place to put them.
I apologize. I thought I mentioned in the beginning that we were now, one of your comments was ADA compliance, and we met that. Because there were 7 points you had: the short EAF, the screening, ADA compliance, parking calculations, dumpster, and the additional parking spaces with the land bank. And obviously, it's your determination, although Lisa, in my understanding and discussion, supports the plan the way it's been revised and presented. It's your determination that the handicap spaces and the land bank spaces be approved by you.
The only concern I have about the land bank is what would trigger, what has to happen in order for it to be deemed there's not enough parking? I mean, are we just having to inspect it, or?
I believe it can go through it doesn't even have to go back to the planning board at that point. It can just be deemed by the ordinance inspector that the site needs to develop its additional parking. Interesting and notably for this site is this site actually has land bank parking in its current existing approved site plan for a much larger parking lot. However, that involves developing and putting in retaining walls to develop all of this natural area into a larger parking lot, and would yield, I think, a total of 77 spaces. So this is a reduction from that to accommodate just the one medical use as opposed to having 2 or 3 medical uses in the building.
And again, the site is one that has been there at this point since 1993. And the site is mature. I mean, when I went up there to look for it, I had to find it because I came down from Village Hall and it was so tucked away, I didn't realize it was there based on the landscaping till I turned the corner and came down the South Street and then drove on the site. I don't think you would want to see all these additional spaces being put in because it would destroy the beauty and integrity of the landscaping. And if
I know we conducted parking observations last fall, but that was during COVID. I don't recall, anybody have any recollection from a few years ago what the parking was here? I kind of remember it being full, but not to the point where people were parking on the roadway or had to.
I had gone to a medical office there. There was like a nutritionist or something in there, and I couldn't find a parking space.
Okay. All right.
So, but 16 more spaces, actual spaces, that might take care of it. And, I agree. It's a shame to lose the landscaping because it is nice. But if our code says this is how many spaces are required, to me, there's a reason for that. And I just hate to have it be another thing that our code officers have to go, or our inspectors have to go and determine at a later date. Like we have it before us now.
So the other possibility.
The other part of the problem here is that if the board doesn't approve the application and requires all of the spaces to be constructed, the applicant does have the option under the lease, because the Northwell Mather Hospital did come forward and say it was going to be used as office. And I do have memos here, which I think I've shared with Lisa, between the building inspector and Kevin Kubek, who were sitting there saying they felt that the parking was adequate based on the use that Mather was going to use it for. And the problem is Mather went from, yes, we're having administrative offices, to psychiatric counseling space. If you don't approve the site plan revision, then I guess his option is we have to go after and evict or sue Mather for breach of their agreement with the lease as to what they said it was specifically supposed to be used for. I would prefer and recommend that you approve the plan before you. I mean, typically in town of Islip, town of Brookhaven, other villages, if the parking isn't something that's definitely necessarily needed and demonstrated, and we have 2 vacant tenancies in the building at the present time, and the alternatives for those spaces are going to be that one of them is office at 1 per 300, and the other is office again at 300, and there's 28 spaces for those. And there seems to be enough based on what Mr. Capitano has said as the landlord for the building. I don't see a reason why if you're driving by and you're seeing cars parked in the street, then most definitely it then needs to go back by an investigator or inspector to come out and say, you need to have more parking and take another visit of the site and inspect it during a 7-day or 2-week period. But I think what's being proposed here is more than adequate for today. Especially with COVID.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, you may.
And just to put on the radar, though it can be pushed forward by the village to require those spaces to go in. Usually the impetus, at least how we've seen it, is that the future tenants or the current tenants of the property go to the property owner as well. And so it's not a single-sided pressure. If, landlords want tenants to be happy and to pay their rent, and if tenants are having difficulty operating their business or they do not have adequate parking, that is another reason for it to come through. And as land banked, they don't have to go through the entire process of the site plan again. They quite simply put us on notice that they're going to move forward with installing those parking spaces. And then we simply do an inspection to make sure that it matches that site plan. And part of the reasoning behind allowing, from the village's perspective, allowing land banking is the recognition that parking calculations are just that. You're making certain assumptions about how every use is going to operate. And just because you call something medical, that medical use might not actually need as many parking spaces. Just because you call something restaurant, that particular restaurant use might not need that many parking spaces. So, rather than just relying on a numerical calculation evenly across the entire village, it gives the opportunity where there can be some flexibility where if you want to preserve particular areas or particular lands, to avoid a concrete jungle situation where you only end up developing that area only when it's truly necessary. And again, I'm from the people who handle the enforcement end of it. It's an incredibly visible property. My staff goes through that area pretty regularly. And I promise you, a single car attempting to park on Columbia will result in a great number of phone calls. So again, from a risk and enforcement perspective, it's not an enormous lift from my department's perspective.
And we, if I recall, at the office complex opposite Mather, we had also used the 1 per 100 for a medical office, and we had a significant amount of spaces reserved for land banking, which were never needed, and that lot never got even close to, the lot itself never got close to filling up. I think with full occupancy or close to it at one time.
To illustrate how the land banking actually works, what we're starting to see is that it is starting to fill up, because what's happening are people from across the street and Mather are parking in those lots.
Yeah.
So, but the process is actually working exactly the way it should be working. We are on notice that parking, it's certainly not overflowing. It's not going over into village lots, but we're starting to see a tightness in there. So conversations are going to be beginning to talk to the property owners to say, listen, I think it's time to start talking about taking some of these out of the bank. That said, that also might be mitigated by the future improvements over at Mather. But
Could I add one thing? And that is, Laura, if it made sort of you more comfortable, if the dumpster is being moved anyway to the, whatever that is, the south a bit, the 3 spaces on the other side of the dumpster that are proposed to be land banked, if that would be sort of the least impactful place, right, to add additional spaces from the land bank number. So you'd be up to 19 rather than 16, and still leaving, the more visible landscaping that the owner wants to preserve. You're going to be disturbing the area anyway to move the dumpster.
Eric, I object to those.
I hear
Yeah.
Sal Capitano.
I was just
Is he in the waiting room?
Hold on. No, he's not. I told him, and you can see me on the phone. I had him on voicemail, and he said there's also, as nice a suggestion as you're trying to compromise with, Jen, the problem is that the slope of the land in that area, in that particular location, which is why he land banked it, goes down very steeply.
Oh,
So
okay.
it would require fill to be brought in, and I guarantee you, you do not want that.
No, gotcha. Yeah, it
And
just
the other
wasn't
reason
clear from
why,
the,
as was mentioned earlier, that the other spaces weren't added was because the other spaces had the issue where you had to have, you know, the walls that would, the retaining walls that would have had to have gone in, and that's just not, that's why they were never built. So I think the proposal here and your compromise that Allison's pointing out is a very valid and good one, and I think would save the day.
I have a couple of questions. When we
I only
make
gave
an
Barbara
observation,
2, so you only get 2.
I only have 2 actually.
There you go.
When we make the observation that land bank parking is required, how long do we normally specify the amount of time that the applicant has to construct those spaces?
Is
You
that
mean
to me
like
or
as
is it
part
to
of your
Allison?
resolution, requiring it as part of your resolution?
Yeah, possibly, but have we done that? in
The only
past?
concern I would have with that is that depending on the time of year that
No,
this
no.
determination is made and you have plants closed, that
Mhm.
could be a bit problematic. But again, I'd state that traditionally when there's a parking problem, even though there's an expense to extending parking and pulling things out of the bank, there's also a significant expense in trying to find a new tenant if they're not able to provide sufficient product there. So, you know, there may be some pushback, but at the same time, we'd have a site plan and a determination and the authority to move forward, even if we had a hesitant applicant. But again, there's good reason for an applicant to be interested in providing adequate parking at their site.
Right. I'm just wondering if the season is bad like it is now and the plants are closed, if you got a parking problem, rather than have cars spilling onto the street temporarily, which would be bad in that area because there's no room. Is there a possibility to write something in where the applicant has to make temporary spaces available, for example, removing curbs and putting in gravel, so at least you can get the cars temporarily parked in the lot until the spaces can be built?
That's not something I've seen, because I would also have some concerns about what other damages you could make to the property. Also some concerns about, I'm sure, you know, the applicant's insurance carrier might have some opinions about that.
Mhm.
And again, if we were talking about an enormous development, I would say there might be a greater risk of those items being concerned about those items, but the plant closure is really only about a 3-month time frame. And with proper planning, by the time they have all the permits pulled and everything else, it's likely the plants would be reopened and they'd be able to move forward with the work. Mobilizing that kind of work wouldn't be able to be handled that quickly anyway. It takes time to make, as you well know, telling you clearly. It takes
And
time.
as I indicated, it's not fully rented at the present time, and given COVID, the medical uses are limited. So I think this would be the perfect opportunity to see how it goes, because I think this plan addresses the concerns that the board and the department had raised.
Okay, I've got one comment or question left, so I'm going to use that to say, on the south side of the building, even you can see it in the center photo there, there's grass. If you're parked up against that building and you want to get inside and it's soggy out, it's wet, it's raining, you're probably not going to want to walk on the grass because there's puddles in it and it's mushy. So you're going to walk in the parking lot. I'd rather see that taken up, the grass taken up and sidewalk put in there for people who park head in, and they won't have to walk in the aisle of the parking area there to get to the building. Wow, you're speechless with that one.
Well, all I could say is I've been to numerous medical parks, and I've not had medical parks that have sidewalk everywhere one goes. And specifically, I've been to the Davis Medical Park, Damianos's, and the one down here south by Long Island Community Hospital. But let me just speak to the applicant, and you know, if you want to rip up lawn and put in cement, that's an unusual request.
Well, it's a safety concern.
I'm,
Hard
Just-
to argue against safety.
I'm not going to argue against safety, but then the site plan would wind up. Are you then proposing, because with all due respect, you would be having it down the south side of the building, across the front of the building, because the only place where there is shown as a concrete walk is in the door entryways. And correct me if I'm wrong, look at the photographs. The photographs that you're looking at there are showing you where the doors are. So where's the concrete walk taking you? You want to have it down the whole south side and then the east side, and then cut through the landscaping in the front of the building to get out to the street, because you'd have to remove the plantings. There's a Kwanzaa cherry tree in the front of the building that's mature.
No, I think you're covered around the other sides. I think it's just, you know, like I said, if you're parked there and it's a rainy day and you got puddles in that thing, you don't want to walk in a sponge to get to
But
the
you're
building.
still-
You're going to
you're
try to
still-
walk in the lot on a
You're
slippery day.
proposing concrete walk on the south side of the building, going to where? There's no door.
No,
It's
no,
not
no.
going-
Can we bring up the site plan?
What I'm looking at is the site plan in front of me. If where you're saying the lawn area is existing on the south side,
Mhm.
where is the concrete walk going to? The doors are in the front of the building.
They're going to go around the back.
The
They're
doors
going to
are
go
over here.
around the side in front of the 3 spaces there.
But that's where the Kwanzaa cherry tree is.
Land bank spaces, actually, right?
But you just went over the Kwanzaa cherry tree that exists.
We can't get around the tree.
Hold
No.
on.
Well, we're land banking those spaces, right? So that could be the land bank space, the last land bank space that's built if we need it.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Yeah. Hold on. So the property owner is taking the same position that I took, as I was telling you about the medical park. But let's just take you to Costco. Let's take you to BJ's. Let's take you to a shopping center. You get out of the parking lot, you're walking in the parking lot to get to a sidewalk. I, with all due respect, challenge that, because I just think you're adding something that doesn't need to be added to the site plan.
Okay, I don't know how the board feels, but I feel very strongly in the opposing direction.
Well, then we're both on opposite sides.
Yes, we are.
And there has been a lot of compromise, and this site plan has been around for 3.25 years.
Mhm. Okay.
So I would respectfully request that we don't require that.
Okay, well, we'll take it under consideration. We understand your point.
I understand your point, but I just don't see the necessity of it.
Okay.
Because even if it were raining hard, they'd be walking in the parking lot, it's raining hard, or they'd be walking on concrete and it's raining hard. There's not even an overhang on the side of the building in either direction.
I know, but if you're wearing high heels, which you wouldn't be.
If they're going to a medical appointment, they're probably wearing sneakers.
All right, we're getting out of control. I think we can respectfully,
Agree not to agree.
yeah, there you go. Okay, anyone else have comments?
Is this something that concerns other board members, or is this?
I'm fine walking in the parking lot.
Yeah, I've been into a lot of medical buildings where I walk the parking lots. I don't see that curb helping that much,
I'd rather have the grass.
you know.
And I have the
Sorry, Rank.
contract to go, I have the contract to go cut the grass with my lawnmower, so I really, you take.
I'm wondering if you do. Yes, okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean,
Enough said.
the way the site has functioned to date, you can't walk around the building on that grass strip because of how the plantings have been planted. So the site has never been used in that way. Yeah, so that's just.
I would agree, if we were starting anew and this was a proposed building, your comments would have validity and we could try and accommodate that. But we're massaging and trying to work with a building that's been here since 1993 with existing plantings and growth. And if you look at the photographs, Lisa's points cover that, in that now we're ripping out shrubbery. And it just doesn't make sense to me.
Also a
Okay.
change in the tenancy. I think it was a single tenant for many years, right? Raytheon.
Yes.
So now it's a number of suites, and it's not very feasible to put separate entrances into the various tenant spaces.
I have nothing further to add, and I appreciate your time. And I know you have a busy agenda, and there are some other challenging applications after us.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else have comments on the board?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So I have one question. After we get over the hiatus of this issue, how long before we can get to a decision? Because the applicant would like to be able to continue and do all of his construction as soon as the spring, the snow and everything melts, and he can move forward.
I would say we don't have anything that's that difficult to schedule this for the next planning board meeting, if everybody's okay with that.
So will that be the March meeting that you referenced earlier?
That's correct.
March the 11th?
That's correct.
So we're hopeful that we'll have a decision by then.
You should have a decision by then.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Again, I thank you for your time and your interest, and I wish you all to remain safe and stay well. And it was a pleasure to be with you all this evening. However, I look forward to it when we're in person.
Yes. Take
Us
care,
too.
Eric.
All right, thanks,
Take care.
Eric.
Thank
All
you.
right, see
Have a
ya.
good night.
Good night.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda, 116 West Broadway,
Okay.
Vacant Water Authority Building. And that is also yours, Lisa.
Yes, it is. I'm going to open up some documents here, and let me see if Eric Bjornaby is in the waiting room. I will bring him in. He's the architect for the project. All right. Let's see which one do we want to bring first. All right, is Eric in? Has he joined us? Let's see. So I've brought him in, but he may not realize he's up yet. So we'll give him a minute, and as he joins us, I will pull up the revised elevations, which I shared with you earlier today. So if you recall, this is the Vacant Water Authority building, 116 West Broadway. It's we've looked at it quite a bit. It required a zoning board variance for the height, which it received to be, it first actually was denied and then received its revised request for a 32.5-foot building where a 30-foot building was permitted. The ARC provided extensive comments for the applicant, which we discussed at the December 3rd meeting in great detail. And the planning board, there were a few things where the ARC had said you could go this way or that way, and the planning board expressed their preferences. And those are reflected here in this design. This is the side that faces, this is the south side of the building, which would be the most visible side if you were walking down the street. The plantings he's incorporated here were at the recommendation of the village gardener, Karen Markson, who recommended native plantings, particularly viburnum on this sunny side of the property. And we'll look at some of the other species. this was recommended by staff. It's a hawthorn tree, which is actually, if you ever pass the Santa's workshop in the village, the Drown Meadow Cottage, there are a couple of hawthorns next to that. They're a smaller tree. They don't grow too large. They have nice seasonal interest. So it should do well at that spot because it's comparable to the one across the way. I'll show you the other sides of the building. This is a better view of the entrance. They incorporated some of the native seagrasses along this side, which is something the planning board had specifically requested. Some of the different architectural elements that were changed were this was widened. They added this detailing here to match the front a little bit. Sorry, the entrance.
Sorry. Lisa, were we supposed to see a new image?
You not see the?
Yeah.
Let me try again. This is funny. If I'm using photos, I have to reshare the image. Okay, I will do that. Thank you for letting me know, because when I'm using the web browser, I can just flip between images. All right, share. This is then the side that I was trying to show you, which shows the entrances and the steps up to the front. You'll see many of the, there's subtle differences from the original proposal, but they were all the things that were discussed in the last meeting. I can go ahead and try to show a different side of this building.
Eric just said in the chat that he had tech issues, but he's back now.
Okay, I'll try him again. Okay, this shows the north side of the building here, where this balcony has been changed to just give a little more symmetry, make it look a little less lopsided here. It's really only accessible through this door, which is where the ferry captain, I believe, has his office. This side reflects planning board comments about not adding the additional paneling around the bathroom windows. And I don't know if there's, let's see, I think this is the only other view to share. Share this one. And from this side, you can see better that this is where the handicap accessible entrance is, because there's the elevator that, given the height variation, you got a lift. There's a lift to get you just up to the floor to make that first floor accessible. So these elevations were one of the changes that the planning board was waiting on. In addition, we received the revised site plan and the revised building plans and the revised drainage, or the drainage for the first time, actually, because the drainage was contingent on the building that was created. Let me, I have sent all of that to you, but I will still share it on the screen. Let me just pull it up. Maybe we'll start with the plans. So the site has 17 spaces, which meet our parking requirements. They're required to have 16 based on square footage. In the past, we've discussed the number of seats, the number of offices. And in the last meeting, he went over the part-time schedules of a number of the applicants, of the number of the offices, and how a lot of the space in there is used in rotation. I'll just flip through these quickly and we'll see if we can get Eric in conversation. I see that he's here, but I don't. Let's try again. And the drainage plan, which unsurprisingly consists of having a very large portion of the parking lot covered in, smaller, shallower drainage containers as it's not possible in that area. You hit water very quickly. Is there anything in particular you have questions on, or?
Lisa, in terms of our comments, we're kind of at the point where they've all been resolved now, including the architectural revisions to the building and the landscaping. Is that correct?
Yes, my understanding is that these changes should, this is the previous plan we're looking at. These changes should have addressed all the list of issues that you originally gave the applicant, and the subsequent comments from the
ARC.
Mm-hmm. Outstanding items or forward-looking conditions, if we're to approve a resolution, is that we do need to bond. The planning board does need to have a bond for all the on-site improvements.
Right.
But that's one of those chicken or the egg scenarios where they can't get the bond estimates until they're basically at approval because of not knowing exactly the materials they need, and also the prices right now are changing so dramatically. So anything that they found out in the fall is not going to be accurate any longer.
Okay.
Did you get my
you
stuff?
say the drainage information was new and you haven't had a chance to look at it, or?
I have. Let me try to move. Actually, Eric Bjarnaby's on here again. I'm trying to bring Eric in now.
Okay.
He's in here twice, but I don't know. We received the drainage information in the end of January, so we've had it for a little while. I don't. I know that you have not had a long time to look at it, so it's something that could perhaps use further review. Let me. It was. Let me try to.
Eric.
Oh, Eric, yes. Oh, can you unmute?
Hi, how are you?
Eric.
Good evening.
Hi, Eric.
Good. Sorry, it said that you were in the meeting already, and I just thought you weren't able to unmute, and then I realized you'd also entered again as an attendee. So
I was listening the whole time on my computer, and when I went to go, it just said my microphone failed. So I grabbed my iPad, and so I'm on that right now. So.
Okay. All right. So, do you have any questions for Eric? Or Eric, if you heard me sum up the place we're at, do you have anything to add?
Right. So we went through, had a very productive back and forth with the Architecture Review Board. Everything went well with them. We made all their revisions. I agreed with their comments, and so did the owner. So it was very easy to get through that process. And so once we had the variance for the height, and we knew that we can get the building going, we were able to get the civil engineer to complete the drainage drawing. So that was done with the 3-inch rainfall as requested. Everything else, I think everything's in place at this point. I don't think there was any concerns.
Okay, I think we're gonna need some time to look at the drainage, but other than that, look like you're in good shape. Unless we find something with the drainage that comments on that.
Okay.
Gil Anderson's probably the best person to take a look at the drainage when he may be on soon. He'll be late tonight, but he'll be joining. So I would say we need to do that and get comments back to you, if any, and that should cover all of the issues at least raised to date.
Okay.
Unless anybody has any other comments about other things or other recollection that something was outstanding. I don't think so. Okay, Lisa, would you recommend putting this on the agenda for March 11th?
Yeah, definitely for a vote on the resolution. It'll give you time to review the resolution and let me know if there's anything that needs to be added. Just take and yeah, if you have any comments on the the drainage plan, let me know as soon as you can
Okay.
so that we
Yeah.
can get the turnaround.
Yeah, if you can mention it to Gil, if we don't.
I will email Gil specifically because
Yeah,
I
Let him
knew.
know. Tell him that's his assignment. He didn't show up until
Now he gets
so
homework.
He gets homework.
And Lisa, I reached out to the contractor that is doing the demo for the building, and he said that he can have rough numbers for us within 2 weeks.
So that's perfect then, because potentially we could approve the bond resolution, the bond amounts before with the final resolution. So
Correct.
we don't leave you in conditional land.
Right.
Which would be perfect. Then everything would be forward looking towards building permit, where everything that you had to get would, be reviewed at that stage as opposed to coming back to the planning board.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good. Anybody else? Any comments, questions?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, I think we're through.
Great.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
Right.
Bye now.
Bye.
Next up is 1 North Country Road, and you probably have a cast of thousands to knit.
Yes, I have. So I will bring in Eric Nicosia, and I know Patrick Lenahan is also here for this. Let me promote them to panelists. Okay, and I will add Rob Gito as well. Okay. All right. Hi, Eric. Can you hear us?
Hello, yes, I can.
Okay. We don't have visual of you, but we hear you, so that's the important part. Do we lose you? I no longer hear Eric.
I think didn't he have a bad connection the last time?
Yeah, we had struggled last time. Jen, is there anything you'd like me to pull up at this point as we wait for Eric to sort out his connection?
Let's see. Well, we have Pat Lan. We can sort of review the staff report if you want first, or have Pat Lanahan go over the traffic study that was done. So I haven't really had a chance to look at it in depth. Ray?
Yes.
What's your preference?
You can go over the
terms of-
staff report.
Okay,
We
all
can
right,
hear
let's start
from-
with that.
We can hear
so-
from Pat, who I guess prepared the study.
Mhm.
I know I'm familiar with Pat's work, and Pat's a very, very qualified traffic engineer.
Okay, so Lisa, if you want to pull up, I think it's A1 through A5. That's the most
Okay.
recent submittal.
Okay, I'll share that screen.
Okay. So I don't know how much all of you recall from the last submission. It's more or less, let's see, there were a number of issues that have been addressed since the last meeting. The proposed structure initially was in fact 5 stories. It's this submission has been cut down to 3 stories. There's a smaller apartment count. I believe there's now 36. Let's see. Yes, 36 apartments instead of the 40 that were originally proposed.
Okay.
This proposal provides all of the required parking plus one. It's an as-of-right project at this point. The last one presented issues, well, put it in sort of a conditional use category because it had ground level apartments. And this particular proposal has a permitted use on the ground level. The retail office space is slightly smaller than it was originally at the corner of North Country and Main Street. The apartment units 101 through 106, the ones that front Main Street are high enough above the grade level of Main Street so that they don't qualify as ground level apartments. They are at least 7 feet as far as I can scale above grade. You can see more or less from the schematic elevation where they begin. The roof deck has been removed and a covered patio at the northwest corner is proposed, and then a smaller sort of outdoor patio for the tenant use at the very edge of the property. Let's see. I can begin with some of the concerns that I had, or oh, there's Eric.
Yes, I'm
See him
back.
now. Hi. Hi.
Hello.
I believe in the last meeting, Laura and myself, there were concerns about accessing, if we go to the ground level, the retail office space is still not accessible from the rear. And in my opinion, I still believe that that's a problem in terms of, you know, I think it inconveniences the users, employees, delivery people. And I had some questions for the applicant, wondering if there's a reason why the entire ground level can't be shown at the elevation of the retail space, which removes the need for the handicap ramps up to the residential portion at the ground level. So
I can clarify that, or
yeah,
wait till-
yeah, that'd be great. I realize it raises the ceiling height throughout the ground level, but
Sure. Well, the issue is getting the drainage to go back towards the other part of the parking lot, and to have the desire is to have this space available on the corner, as it's a very desirable corner. So we wanted to have that retail space there. And what you're looking at on the site plan, the two handicap spaces in the middle of the page, that services the apartment building. So you'd come in, it's a curb ramp that exists there. And the other, what we had done is originally on the other plan, we had the accessible space that would address this commercial use in the parking lot outside from underneath the garage. So what I did was actually I moved that into beneath the garage, and you would be able to park in there as the accessible space and come out through that. It's not a door, it's an opening, and that would service that retail space. So there is a, the distance is about 55 feet. And that's, within, a good, like the CVS parking lot we have down in Barnum, it's the same, similar distance. And from the outside parking, it's only about 100 feet. So it's really not a tremendous distance, we feel, for the potential tenant to be in there to get to. It's also, we have some parking that's on the street on North Country Road. So
across the street.
Yeah, and we honestly don't feel like that's an issue for the tenant. for the trade-off is that you have that corner. And also we're in a town environment. So a little bit of walking is good. We don't feel that's a real issue for us.
Can I go back to your drainage issue? Because I'm not sure I understand why there is the level change still.
So the grade at the that corner retail spot is about a foot and a half difference from the main level of the apartments and the lounge, etc. So I have the drainage exists outside of the building. If you look at where that red line is, the drainage is just on the east side of that. So I'm pitching from the parking lot on the east side towards the middle, and then I'm pitching from. We have a small pitch because it's under the building. So I need a little bit of pitch away from the building back outside to hit that drainage. Obviously, even though it's a covered garage, you still have, especially you have snow melt, that kind of thing. So I need to pitch away from that. And I also need to I can't have steps going into this corner retail space. Again, the sidewalk on North Country Road does meet the requirements as an accessible route. So there are no steps there. So otherwise, I'd have to raise the floor level up, which would not work for us.
No, I guess I was just proposing to lower the retail component floor level, finished floor level.
Right. So that would put me below. That would put the water coming into the building essentially. So I really needed to get that up so I can pitch away and not have water, continue going to the west. So there is no ramp. The only ramps involved are curb ramp in the two locations at the accessible spots.
Okay.
So I don't know if I need to address that further or.
No, I'm just digesting what you said. Yeah, it's not clear because I can't really tell. Yeah, okay. I'll think about it. Go ahead, sorry.
If I can just make a quick comment. Good evening, everybody. We're not going to propose a retail use at that location if we don't think we're going to be able to find a tenant that will be able to work at that location. The distance from the parking lot, especially compared to the rest of Uptown and downtown Port Jefferson, is actually closer than most of the retail storefronts that you see throughout the village. Just think about how far you walk. And then we also addressed, looked at the majority of our portfolio of retail real estate, shopping centers, malls, things like that. This distance from the parking lot to the front door is significantly closer than most shopping centers that we are involved with and others that you analyze. So we don't feel that this is a big, large distance at all. The corner location we feel will be very desirable to different types of retailers. We just think it will work. We don't see this as an issue. And like I said, we wouldn't propose something that we don't think is going to work for ourselves.
Okay. All right. Eric, now that you're on, I'm happy to continue with the comments I had, or you can flesh out the revision for the board.
Yes. Well, we did, try to listen to the comments from the past, and in reanalyzing the project and redesigning it, we did take the top level off of it. So, you know, we eliminated the whole story from the building. We reduced some of the unit, we reduced the unit count. We have an extra parking space available. So I feel like we've attempted to address the concerns. Some of the other issue regarding moving the sidewalk back so we have a strip along Main Street. We would certainly look to do that. I didn't do it for this revision, but we would certainly put that in. The building, you know, we do have a tremendous grade difference that happens on Main Street going from North Country down. So we've attempted to address that. We weren't able to utilize the space underneath for use. We can't use it for apartments because of the requirements in the zoning. So we couldn't use it for a commercial space either because of the grade is significant. So we had put a recreation area or a patio area underneath, and that is providing a substantial area for the tenants to utilize. We took away the roof deck. That also eliminates an extra stair that would have to go up through the roof. That would be visible on that side of the building, and that helped cut down on some of the activity. And the building is otherwise code compliant, utilizing the zoning code for the elevations. We would like to be able to get additional input from the DOT and the health department, et cetera, through if we can begin the notification process to get that feedback. And we would like to be able to proceed to next level towards working to improve the project. Obviously, we present a formal design, elevations, et cetera. But we felt this was a significant change and improvement. We wanted to come back to the board and discuss what we had done to help alleviate some of the concerns of the height. We're really not able to do much, obviously, about the street. It is what it is. We wouldn't be, blocking or changing any real views, et cetera. And the building is compact and concentrated on that end of the property, which is beneficial instead of spreading it out further. So we hope that we're making progress to make the changes that were talked about. We do have an extra parking space now with this design and eliminating some of the apartments.
Eric, I know last time we got together, there was concern about the north side of the building and the visual impact of that. Do you have any section drawn up on the north side of the building?
I guess on page 2 of the plan, I did I'm calling it a schematic elevation to show how that the grade changes and how there would be breaking up so with landscaping and utilizing the space underneath without it being apartments or a commercial use down there. And it does, again, utilizes the zoning that's in place. So, and we did take the top level off of it. So, we took it down at least 10, 11 feet in that respect. So obviously in presenting when we proceed to designing the building and presenting it, I will certainly provide those elevations and views of the existing conditions that are there. I can show it with the photos of what's there and what we're proposing that would help illustrate what's going on there.
Yeah, based on the fact that we had a lot of comments and discussion about that the last time, I think that's the next thing we want to see. A section like this one, but the north side of the building.
Yes, and it doesn't change. I mean, the street is, this grade is going to be what is the street obviously is there. So we have to work with what we have essentially. And I don't think there's any real super magic to that. And certainly keeping the building further away from the opposite end, keeping away from Thorn Lane. This is the more commercial aspect of it. I think it would be desired that the building is close to the street. So it is a zoning compliant design. So
just a point of clarification. So you're saying the north end of the building would, if one were to sort of hold up your hand over the right or the south 3/4 of the building, is that more or less what it's going to look like from the north face? Because you're going to see the patio and some windows.
Yes.
Okay. Are there going to be balconies?
We have balconies throughout. Some of them are Juliet type balconies. I guess on the north side, I would be cautious about putting too large a balcony. I have to have a setback for fire separation purposes. But there would be Juliet balconies on that side. And now it's shown as one level kind of roof and without devoid of any trim and all that, of course. But we would, we would certainly be presenting a building that has more dynamic to it than the schematic that we have tonight.
Eric, I know I'm late to the party. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Gil.
I think I don't disagree with you that you're working within the limitations that you're faced with, but when you head south on 112 heading towards the train tracks, and you come up that hill, that's going to be a big building. It really, you're going to have to. I really think going to have to put, not that you wouldn't, but it's going to have to. There's going to have to be some architectural effort made to make it maybe a little more attractive because it is that big.
Or step it back, perhaps at the top level. It's still at that corner, the same level the same height that it was. It's over 48 feet high at that corner. In the previous iteration, when you did have a story above it, that story was set back considerably. So the effect of this, for some ways up Main Street, you're looking at a 4-story building face. And even though there's a covered patio under there, volumetrically, it's still the same experience of a 4-story building, which the Upper Port study had recommended stepping back if you were going to have 4 stories to avoid this effect of a very tall sheer wall for especially a pedestrian, that it would be stepped back on the upper levels. So while yes, technically there, it is code compliant. It's code compliant because the height of the building is taken off. It's code compliant, but doesn't quite respect the intent of the code, I suppose is what I want to say.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice treatment if you could step it back. I would also, and probably too early to say this, but I would also recommend that this go before the ARC when you're at that point to get there. They gave some good feedback on Port Jeff Crossing, and I think that would be beneficial at this point.
Yes, okay.
Jen, did you want to continue if Eric's kind of done with his?
I can. I thought that, roof decks in that location particularly would be a fantastic place. I understand to have one, but its omission, I think, begs, a little more outdoor space for some of the residents. So perhaps the south side where you've got, you know, a lot of light, that rather than so many, just a more generous balcony space, perhaps?
Sure, I'll step in here. We'll definitely consider more, larger balconies if we can make that work. In terms of the outdoor space proposed on the plan, it is more than the 74 unit complex that we have at the Hills. So, we're providing more, and that works out very well. The tenants love it. They use it all the time. It's not over capacity in terms of the usage. So we're confident that what we're providing here is more than adequate for the 36 apartments that we're proposing here. But we'll definitely take a look at, we'd love to increase the balcony size. So that's something we'll take a hard look at.
Okay. And I think particularly, I think the internal, some of the units that only have the, what is that, the eastern exposure, that perhaps, that also might be a nicer, it might turn them into nicer units to have a little more outdoor space of their own.
Point of clarification: when the building steps, when fourth floors step back, can that flat space between the edge of the fourth floor and the rest of the building, is that what we're referencing as a balcony as opposed to a pop-out balcony? Is that ever done? Sort of like the penthouse style kind of.
We'll have to come back and address that with our design of the building. Currently, what is shown there are pop-out balconies and the Juliet balcony. So some of them are in the 4-foot range. The others are, like more like 1.5 feet or so, where there's a door and there's the railing, but so there is a mix at this point. And we would look to address your concerns moving forward on the north face.
That northwest corner is a sweet spot for barbecuing and looking at the sound, probably, for the fourth story.
Yes.
My official opinion.
Jen?
We have the lot next door. It's not our lot, but the property next door does have some vegetation on it. So that face and that slope is not completely devoid of trees, etc. We can demonstrate that in looking at even on the Google Maps going up in the summertime. There's not a tremendous amount exposed as you might think, and the grade does slope going up towards the east pretty dramatically also. So that we're only talking about a corner of the building there.
Yeah, but that's a pretty exposed corner. I look forward to your elevations, Eric.
Okay, Jen, you want to continue on your issues or comments?
I think those were my major comments and concerns.
Okay, I know we had discussion last time about access onto Thorn Street and blocking the box on North Country. I know there was a discussion about that last time. We're showing just single access to Thorn, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that traffic comes out to North Country at the box.
And I think we received a note from all the neighbors on Thorn, or a petition, or a whatever you want to call it. They all signed it asking that not happen.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure the wording. I saw it earlier today.
They wanted that curb cut closed up, but I'm uncomfortable with just having the one ingress and egress. There's actually a little school on the eastern corner of Thorn and North Country. right across. And they do have a small parking lot. It's a house that's been converted into a school, and they have a small parking lot behind it. I just feel that there needs to be an additional curb cut onto North Country Road, just to have one for the complex. I've already hit a snag in my own residence where there was an accident down the street. The police wouldn't let anybody through, and I couldn't get home. And it's comforting just to have a secondary access. So I would, if possible, I would like to see another curb cut on North Country Road.
Can I jump in on the access issue?
Sure.
Good evening, Pat Lenahan, VHB Engineering. So we did the traffic study, which I believe is in your file. But working on the property, when we looked at it, sort of a blank slate with the restaurant and the florist, from a purely transportation traffic safety point of view, the initial reaction was to move the access to over to Thorn Lane for a couple of reasons. We limit the amount of curb cuts on North Country Road. We know there's some queuing issues there. There already is a curb cut onto Thorn Lane for the that floral shop that's on the corner. So if I had my druthers, this is the access plan that where we would fall. However, I've been doing this long enough to know that I can't work in a vacuum all the time, and there are other things at play. So I am not completely inflexible in my opinion on this. I think there is a possibility to put an access on North Country Road, maybe just west of where the floral access point is, opposite Walnut. And, in that location, perhaps we consider restricting left turns out.
That would help.
Now, I don't know if I think with that we close the one lane. Because if we didn't do that, we would probably miss parking code. But that's how I got there. That's how we got to Thorn Lane. Just looking at it, purely from a traffic safety standpoint, limiting curb cuts, getting as far away from Main Street as we could. But even if we put one on North Country Road, we're still going to be 200 some odd feet from Main Street and further away than the Lobster House access is now. And if we restrict the left turns out, we'll be in even better shape. And just for point of fact, aside from the morning when the restaurant is closed and the floral shop probably doesn't open up till a little bit later either, but in the afternoon and on Saturday, where we traditionally look to analyze these types of developments in the commuter peak and the Saturday midday peak, we expect that this development will generate less traffic than the Lobster House and the floral shop.
I understand that, and I agree that it will generate less traffic. My concern is only having the one ingress and egress on Thorn, especially when it's a one-lane dead-end street, and the residents have already been complaining about the inability to get in and out.
Right. I understand. I guess that was my point about working in a vacuum and showing a little flexibility. I believe we can provide the access on North Country Road is what I'm saying, and not on Thorn.
Okay.
Assuming that the village wants to go in that direction. If I had my 100% druthers, I go to Thorn, but I know sometimes there's other considerations.
But Pat, are you saying if we put it onto North Country Road, you would eliminate the Thorn access or have both?
Correct. We're looking at a very small level of traffic, really. Thorn is a narrow street. I think we'll operate just fine with one single driveway. I would leave it to Eric what the building codes are in terms of one access. I'm not certain on a site this size.
Yeah, I mean, from a New York State building code, there is no requirement for anything like that.
It's not a large, deep sort of parking
Right.
structure or building. It's a shallow site.
Would there be any benefit to creating a right turn lane off of Thorn, coming off of Thorn onto, would you get any type of relief by that, or would that just muck things up worse?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand you.
Okay,
Actually
right now-
widening
Right now you
southbound
got
Thorn.
one lane coming out, heading south.
Correct.
You make rights or lefts. If you cut into the curb on the west side and created a right turn lane, if you can, I'm just throwing this out there. Is there
Well,
any benefit in your estimate?
the right of way there for on Thorn Lane, as well as the pavement being narrow. I think the right of way is about 32 feet, so it's narrow as well. Just to give you an idea of the kind of traffic on Thorn Lane that we're talking about in the morning peak hour when folks will be getting up and going to work, and this is a 1 hour period as we usually talk about as traffic folks. I think there's a dozen or so homes up Thorn Lane. In 1 hour, we saw 5 vehicles leave Thorn Lane. It's a very low volume.
And you said you were right at the parking requirement, correct? With the
We're 1 over.
Oh, 1 over. Okay.
Correct.
Do you have to take into account the fact that people might be working from home at all?
Well, the
Devil's advocate here, sorry.
what happens is your parking code accounts for both the retailer office use and the residential use added together regardless of the time of day, right? Traditionally, residential needs its most parking after 10 o'clock at night when folks are all home. So, with the code, when we add the retail and the residential together and we meet code with the one surplus, even if nobody left, we would be fine.
Okay, I just meant your traffic study of Thorn. It may have been a little low because.
Well, we managed to get our traffic counts done pre-COVID.
Oh, okay.
So all the data in the traffic study is pre-COVID. We've been doing our due diligence here for a bit of time.
Okay.
If I could just say, in terms of whether it's Thorn or North Country Road for the access, for the previous projects we've done in the village, we've always often we've turned to the fire department to get their input on what the best location would be for their access, which obviously safety is the most important here. So, I would recommend that we also get their input on what location would be best for the curb cut.
Good point.
Jen,
I think I had a thought, and I just wanted to ask Pat about it. In terms of exiting the site, Thorn versus North Country, if you exit on Thorn, trying to get out onto North Country Road to either go east or west, you've got space on the road for queuing, but you'll end up queuing on the site, right? If you have the access on North Country Road, trying to turn.
I think what you're getting at is there's a throat on Thorn Lane, between North Country and the driveway.
Right, there's about 80 feet. Right.
You could stack several cars. Yeah. Again, the numbers that we're talking about that are going to come in and out of this development are very modest. Just to give you an idea, in the PM peak hour, we would have 9 vehicles exiting over an hour. Multifamily housing doesn't generate what single family housing does. It generates actually less than half usually. An apartment versus a single family house in a subdivision. So there'll be 1 car waiting to get out. If you had 2 cars waiting to get out, I wouldn't anticipate any big lines, and it's all internal to the site. It doesn't affect traffic flow on the main road.
Right. No, I'm not worried. It's often very difficult to there's a lot of traffic on North Country Road. It's just difficult to get out.
I don't disagree. If I did, you'd laugh at me.
We've got some other long-term improvements on North Country in terms of the comprehensive plan when other developments occur that would take traffic off of North Country. And we talked about reversing traffic flow on, I believe it was Perry Street, and signalizing Perry at 25A, so, or Main Street. So that would help reduce the queuing there, which is really bad around. I guess the worst time might be when the shift changes occur in the afternoon at the hospital.
Yeah,
Maybe both hospitals at the same time. I'm not sure. That's pretty backed up.
Yeah, that's something we looked at. The biggest shift change at Mather, I'm not sure about St. Charles. Mather runs their heavy day shift is 7 to 3. So at 3 o'clock, a whole bunch of folks jump in their cars and they come down Belterre Road, they come down North Country Road, and that's where you see the biggest queues on North Country. And it lasts 25, 30 minutes and then it kind of evaporates again. But it happens every day.
Yeah. Okay, other comments from the board or questions or?
I do have a question about visitor parking. Do the parking calculations for the building include visitor parking?
The in general, and I'm sure here, any apartment complex, residential park complex is going to have a small level of visitor parking that can occur, and traditionally, and I'm sure here that you put some thought into the parking code for this district, it would capture a normal small level of visitor parking. Eric did mention that in addition, we have there is some parking on the south side of North Country Road where people could park there if they wanted to, but we don't anticipate they would have to.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I guess, Eric, the most important thing I think is the north side of the building. Looking at that, and then also reconsidering the access to the building or how it affects parking. And not any comments about drainage, or I know you're staying outside the need to hook up to sewers, is that correct?
Well, actually, where the building is designed to fit within the sewer district, because the sewer district does end at the tax map lot for where the lobster house is now. So there is an existing sewer connection, which we would utilize. We're planning to utilize that. We'd have to add a sampling manhole and a couple other adjustments to that to satisfy DPW, but we would utilize the existing connection, and the drainage would be conventional drainage rings. We don't have a groundwater problem up here, obviously. And
Okay, any other board questions, comments? Okay, thanks for coming in again, and we seem to be moving forward, so that's good. Appreciate the changes you've made since the last meeting, and we look forward to talking to you again at the whether the next meeting would be good to keep the project moving, but next meeting's on March 11th. But
absolutely.
Okay, good. All right.
Great.
So
thank you very much.
Pencil you in for that.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good
night.
Night. Okay.
What's next?
Next item is
Oh, I think you can leave now, right?
410 Thompson Street, and I might be able to leave because I'm recused for the next two.
Yep.
I will keep my phone available in case there's a callback on something else, because I'm not going anywhere. So Allison or somebody can text me. Email me works too. Texting is probably better. All right. Have a good night. Good luck in the rest of the meeting, and see you all soon.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Ray.
Take care, Ray.
Okay, Amy's probably here for this, I think. Okay. Oh, having difficulty hearing you, Lisa. I can hear you in the room, but I can't hear you. Oh,
It's
that's
'cause
better.
it's because I put this up out of my
Oh.
way. I'm sorry about that. Let's see, we're gonna move, promote Amy to a panelist.
Everybody.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Ready for bed? I don't know about you guys.
Is your cuckoo clock gonna go off in a minute?
Oh, it is
Oh,
probably.
yes, it is. I'll even show you guys. How do you like that?
All right, that's so funny. Unless our clocks are all wrong. Okay.
Any minute now.
Let me pull up.
What?
9 o'clock.
I know.
All right. Is there any document I should pull up right now?
Oh, here it is.
There you go.
Welcome, everybody.
Do you want to pull up the sketch plan?
This happened to me last night on Brookhaven Zoning Board. Perfect. Right in the middle of my speech. I clearly have to move to another room when I do this.
or you have to relocate the cuckoo
Yeah.
clock. All right. The sketch plan with markups or without markups, Jen?
It can, either one I think is fine. The markups are just there to remind, I guess, the applicant to remove things. They're just things that exist that won't be there any longer if this is developed, and it just sort of confuses the plan a little bit, but
okay.
All right. So let's see, Gil, I guess you're the acting chair on this. I'm happy to go over where we are, or Amy, you can.
I mean, I could bring everybody up to speed, and then if you want to add
Sure.
on. Good evening, everybody. So we went to Zoning Board of Appeals on January 28th, and they approved our 2 area variances. One was for the combined side yard setback of the existing house, and the other was for the street frontage for the proposed flag driveway. So we were able to gain their approval, which brought us back to you guys. We did make some changes to the plan as per planning board recommendations when I last sat down with you guys. And that was to relocate the parking for the music studio, which we did, which is evidenced on the survey that is before you right now. You had also asked us to approach the fire department to make sure that the proposed ingress and egress of the driveway was of proper width for any emergency vehicles to gain entry to the rear lot. We did that, and we were able to get a letter of
Assurance.
Assurance, yeah, I was going to say approval, but that wasn't appropriate. A letter of assurance from the fire department, which the village does have a copy of. I think Jennifer, I'm not sure if Jennifer sent that to you or not.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like you did actually. It says attached. And then we also amended the sketch plan to more clearly delineate the driveways for lots 1 and 2, and to show some landscaping between the driveways in an effort to shield the existing house from traffic coming in and out. As part of our zoning board hearing, one of the neighbors a couple of the neighbors attended, but one of the neighbors specifically across the street had a request that we lose one of the curb cuts. So if you look at the survey, you'll see that in the front of the property, there is a circular driveway or a half, a horseshoe shaped driveway in the front. And then there'll also be the driveway for lot 2. The neighbor across the street asked if we could close the curb cut on the, where's my directional? On the western curb cut, I'm sorry, eastern curb cut, so that it would deter headlights from shining into his window as people are exiting the property. So now the existing house will exit from the westerly curb cut, and the flag will provide access to the rear curb, the rear lot only. We also discussed maybe putting a curb there, actually putting a curb in, and then some low-lying plantings in an effort to not obviously create any type of dangerous, I guess, obstruction when people are coming in and out, or blocking any traffic. So that was really the gist of what the neighbor had suggested, other than the comments that we discussed with you guys last. I think that's pretty much about it. We are preparing now to submit to Suffolk County Health Department, just waiting for some floor plans of the existing house, etc. So we'll be working on that very soon. And really just ready to proceed with your board and hopefully a public hearing very soon.
I could add just a couple of things. The zoning board agreed with the planning board's suggestion that there be a covenant restriction that no further subdivision would be permitted, and the applicant was fine with that.
Yes.
And just to, oh yeah, Lisa, if you could scroll down to the detail that's outlined in the circle above. Yeah, there on the left of your screen. At the previous meeting when we were looking at the sketch plan, we weren't sure how to sort of separate the two driveways. And at one point there was discussion about some sort of easement so that maybe they could share entrances. And I think a better proposal that would never require an easement is in fact what's been proposed, that the front lot, the existing lot, goes in and out from this western ingress, and 2 parking spaces have been created right inside there for the owner. The owner could then back out and then leave the same way. Currently the owner comes in, sort of parks in front of the house, and then circles back out, because right now it is sort of a half circle drive that goes around that sort of, you can see the wood planter sort of semicircle there. But by restricting any, so the proposal currently is to actually put in boulders that will absolutely preclude any, the residents from lot 1 or 2 from driving over. That seemed to be sort of the best approach to permanently separate the 2 driveways. And then there'll be sort of low growing ground cover and shrubs at that point.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember in the previous iteration of this, actually, excuse me, not iteration of this proposal, but when the sound company or the music studio in the back was coming for their permit, they asked not to use this curb cut because they thought it was dangerous. So I'm just curious.
I think they used it to come in.
Okay, because they didn't
frequently, right?
Because that was something that we brought up before, and I'm just, not to be a fly in the ointment, but is that, are they just not worried about that anymore, or?
I don't know if I think that perhaps more care has to be taken when you're coming and going from that
Okay.
western
I mean,
curb cut.
this is the best, this is definitely the best solution in, you know, in my opinion. I'm just curious if they were.
Right. I don't think it's actually dangerous. I just think
Okay.
that the eastern curb cut, because it's so wide, it's basically the entire, it's not the only place where you've really got any sort of grade or level change is at that wood planter, but it's sort of a nebulous, ill-defined entrance, and it's quite wide. And so it gives you, it's just a more comfortable place to come and go.
Just not sure if they needed to do anything else to make it safer.
I don't think so. They just have to be more aware.
I think
Laura, I wasn't involved with the, you know, permitting or approval process for the music studio, so I'm not really aware of any of the comments from those particular applications, but I could just tell you, just being, you know, back and forth to this property really for the last couple of years with, you know, different applications and whatnot with the subdivision proposals. I don't find the, you know, ingress from that side of the, I'm so sorry. Can you guys just give me one moment, please?
I guess I'm not the only one. My phone rang in the middle. I had to mute really quick.
I had the cat screaming at the door. So.
There's also an added benefit now at this point that because the driveway, the existing driveway is so wide right now, that even though clients are supposed to park in, you know, close to the recording studio, that hasn't always been the case. And I think that that bothered the neighbor across the street as well, that it was sort of a free-for-all because, you know, it's not blacktop, there's no clear, you know, spaces delineated. And this plan actually gets all of the recording studio clients to the rear,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah,
in a very specific area.
It's great. It's a definite.
And with the added privet on the east side of the proposed flagpole drive, that will shield the neighbor to the east more from the clientele at the recording studio.
Sorry about that, guys. There was some commotion going on in the background.
Okay.
and thank you for muting me, Lisa. That's exactly what I was going to say, actually. This whole plan really cleans up that entire driveway area in general and makes it much more, not only aesthetically better looking as far as cleaning it up, pavement, the boulder curb, plantings, etc., but it actually makes it safer. I haven't had experience with going to the music studio in peak hours or anything like that, but I could imagine that people going in and out of that driveway, you know, just trying to exit and enter was probably a bit chaotic. So this will definitely help clean up those issues.
Yeah, I think that to echo what Laura said, I'm sorry. The other complaint that we heard from the neighbor across the street was when the studio folks would leave, their lights would shine into his house. And I think it was the easterly end that you know, occurred at. So the flag lot being it, it'll be a residential house. It'll only be a couple of times a day. And I think this is a better layout for everybody as long as, you know, they can maintain that separation. The only comment if I could, the privets are being shown between the two driveways, right? Not on the east side of the new flag lot, but up through there. So they'll get enough light in through there to.
They should do, and they will also. It's irrigation is proposed, so I think that that's also been sort of the bane of trying to do any plantings on the east side of the existing drive because there are lots of Norway maples.
Right.
Keep that. So with an irrigation system and sort of separated a little farther from the trees, I think that they stand a pretty good chance of surviving.
Cool.
And the good news is that the neighbor to the east will actually now have even more of a buffer between their property and the music studio with the separation of the driveways, the plantings in between, and obviously the very low traffic that will occur going back and forth in and out of the flag driveway to the second lot.
Yeah. So that said, I think the first step is to, per the subdivision section of our code, the applicant now has the required relief. I think the sketch plan shows all of the required features that would have to be there, should you build subdivide and build an additional single family residence. If you're satisfied that this is a viable sketch plan, then next steps are to approve the sketch plan, and I think we can also look at SECRA. That's a decision for you to make. Oh, Gil, I think your sound is off.
Sorry, hi. As far as the SECRA, we need to establish lead agency?
You did that already.
Okay.
But we couldn't move any further because it was without the area variances,
Right.
It wasn't a viable subdivision.
Right. So now we can move forward with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, does anybody on the board have any other questions or concerns?
No, I think it looks good.
Yeah.
It's a good solution.
All right.
Okay, the applicant did fill out the short form, which I felt was sufficient. It's an unlisted action, and I felt the short form was sufficient for what's being proposed. It's a single family residence. The lot, there are, actually, I think I forwarded it to you. Lisa, I think it's also an attachment.
Okay, I will pull it up. 1 second.
With the exception of a couple of corrections, I didn't note any significant
Okay, here it is.
moderate to large impacts. But we should probably go through it. Great. So these are just more housekeeping. But I don't have the board members had a chance to look at this at all. Thankfully, it's the short form.
No, it's a pretty straightforward.
I think the rear lot, the proposed rear lot is almost flat. I don't think that there are any
No, it seems good to me.
Okay. Well, as lead agency, you can declare, make a negative declaration in terms of SECRA, if you'd like.
So can I have a motion for a negative declaration towards SECRA?
I'll make the motion.
Anybody second?
I will, if nobody else isn't.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
All right, seeing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed. And then I guess we approve the sketch plan is the next step, right?
If you'd like to, yep.
I think, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the step plan? Sorry, sketch plan?
I'll make the motion to approve the sketch plan.
Thank you, Brian.
I will second that.
Awesome. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved.
Okay, I've listed the next, so approving the sketch plan sets a timetable for the applicant to submit a plat. And I will refer this application to Suffolk County Planning Commission for their comment. That is a requirement. The applicant will be required to give you letters of availability from utilities. I think they're proposing to bring in gas, obviously electric and water. And we will need to, once all of that's done and the planning board deems the plat complete and letters of availability. So basically, once everything is complete, we got the planning board subdivisions require a public hearing. So we'll schedule a public hearing, and then a decision must be made within 60 days of the official submission of the plat and the public hearing. So that's our timetable moving forward. Does anyone have any questions? I think it's fairly straightforward, hopefully.
I think so.
Okay, good.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Amy. Where are we? Oh, there you are.
Thank you, guys. I will be in touch with Jennifer, and I will talk to you guys soon, and have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, Amy.
Take care.
Take care. Last but not least, Jennifer. I don't know if, I actually don't even know if anyone is sort of required to be brought in yet. I don't know. I sent out the amended resolution and it was very last minute, so you may or may not have had a chance to review it. The pertinent section of that starts on page 9, just describing the course of events that happened after the drawings were signed, after they got final approval. The LIRR denied the easement to place the electric service. Originally, the service was coming off of Main Street. The electric service was to come off of Main Street at a pole adjacent to the LIR parking lot. It would be undergrounded to a transformer that would be placed on the sort of northwestern part of their parking lot. That was in the approved set of drawings. The LIRR is not keen to have a private, anyone else's improvements on their lot. So an alternative location was found. The proposal now is to bring the electric service off of a pole on Oakland Avenue, to underground it across the Oakland Avenue parking lot, just beneath, at the rear of the subject site, and on village property on the parking lot, build an above ground transformer pad, and then it will go directly to the rear of the building and to an electric connection at the rear of the building rather than in the front. This change does not in any way impact anything that the planning board has considered. It engendered the need to draft an easement agreement between Conifer and the village to allow to underground the cable, the electric across the parking lot. So should the applicant need, and to keep the transformer on village land. That document has been done. I neglected to include that, but hopefully you'll take my word for it that it exists. It is called the Electric Service and Transformer Easement. But in the interest of having, a record set of approved site development plans that accurately reflect what was done on the site. This is more or less an administrative amendment, as it doesn't affect any of your considerations, but it does need your blessing and approval.
Did
Are there any questions?
Did everybody have a chance to look at the plan to see where it's located? I don't know if that might be, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, we could put it up on the screen, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think it's on sheet 4, Lisa.
Was of
on the R&W plans.
Let's see. What date did you share them? Today?
No, I think yesterday.
Yes, I believe. If not, I can just send you them, Lisa.
I think it's, yes, I've got them.
Okay.
Let me pull up sheet 4.
Sheet, is this sheet 4?
This
I think it was
is
the next one.
Yeah.
it's the next one, sheet 5.
Oh,
And
sorry.
let me just try to fit it so you guys can see it.
Yeah,
'cause
this
it's getting
looks
buried
right.
on the other side
Yep.
of my screen. Let me get a little closer.
So here. Actually, you can't see my arrow, can you?
I can't. So here's do you want me to zoom in to that section over here?
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So this is the eastern side of the building, the rear. That box with a T is the transformer. There are bollards protecting it. It sits on a concrete pad. This is at the, and it's obvious there's a significant grade change there too. And the electric service connection, if you just follow that dotted line across, yep, that's where it will be brought into the building, rather than it was about 30 feet off of the southwest corner of the building previously. This arrangement has been worked out with PSEG and Bob Brown, who's the village consultant for Station. So he's basically coordinating the efforts to build Station Street and the Highland Boulevard bypass or realignment.
All right, so any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Okay. So then we just need a motion to approve the changes.
Mm-hmm.
So could I have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
This is actually a motion to approve the amended final approval. Yes.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Motion.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, fantastic.
Motion is approved.
Gil, I'll need to coordinate with you
Sure.
because you'll have to re-sign this set of drawings.
Okay,
So if you just, I'm happy to drop them off.
sure, I can pick them up, whatever works.
Okay.
Give me a holler when you're ready.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. Thank you all.
That was a long one. Good job, team.
All right.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All
Stay
right.
safe.
Take care.
everybody.
Stay warm.
Night.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Aye.